In this episode of Just VR Gaming's podcast, we'll be looking at Meta slashing the price of Quest 2 even more, back to VR's ambition to work with Beef and bring more flat games to VR, almost in a night dive style, and more woes for PlayStation VR 2. Although I wonder if at this point the media's after them. But we'll see, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, we'll discuss it in a minute. Lily, you ready for another episode of the podcast? You excited?
Absolutely, Leon. I can't wait to see what immersive worlds and tech wonders we'll explore this time. It's always a blast with the JustVRGaming gang.
That's what I like to hear. Let's do it. So, Meta has slashed the price of the Quest 2 to a new low ahead of suspected Quest 3 Lite, which we might lightly talk about as well. But what's interesting is I did ask you guys as well in a community post, you should check out. We look here. This is very interesting. Now, obviously, this is at the time of recording, we're a newer channel. We're building the content, building up the numbers, but 20 votes on a poll for a channel with less than, at this time of recording, less than 200 subscribers is a big deal. That's a big percentage. That is not just subscribers. So it's interesting that lots of people, even by this small number, is interested in Meta Quest 2, which leads nicely into this whole thing. As some of you said new stuff, or one person it seems said new stuff only. One said VR games for any platform really, and then 18 out of 20 said Meta Quest 2. None of you gave PlayStation VR 1 some love. I'll put the link in the description wherever you guys can add your vote as to what you want to see. But it's interesting because since you guys are interested in Meta Quest 2, and I will be therefore looking to make some videos and stuff on the Meta Quest 2. We're going to talk about the price slash that's happened. I don't know if this is just until a certain date. It seems to imply that in the article, but let's read and discuss. And as ever, let me know your thoughts as we go in the comments, respectfully. And, Meta once again reducing the price of Quest 2, this time bringing the 128GB version, which is this 2020 era standalone VR headset at just $200. And it's like £200 in the UK, I think it is as well. But most of you guys are America, as my customer base it seems, so it's $200. You can get a refurbished one, it seems, for $270 on Amazon. Okay, so the new low price can also be found at Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Newegg, and more. None of these places are available in the UK. Notably, the deal on Walmart includes a $50 digital credit to use on games and apps. So you're getting an extra $50 value there. So it's almost like you're paying $150. A number of countries, as the 120 version goes live. What is that saying? Why does that not make sense? Price is also affecting a number of countries as the 120 gigabyte version now goes for 250 euro and 32,000 yen, each of which is around $50 cheaper in their respective currencies. That's because of how I highlighted it. I gave myself a tongue twister. So I can't complain, that was my fault. It's uncertain how long the deal will last, with some online third-party retailers indicating the sale ends as early as Saturday. That's today. Oops. But I looked on Amazon, it was still £200. So it's probably still $200 as well. But use the Amazon links. It works in the US and everywhere pretty much. And you have to use it within 24 hours. It's completely free to do. Costs you no extra. But if you're going to grab one, that's the way to do it. You support us for free. We thank you. As the 250GB version is largely out of stock since the beginning of last year, this could suggest we're not getting a restock or a price change from its $300 MSRP. Companies looking to flush out the stock of the headset, which was launched in late 2020, just 2 years prior to the Quest Pro, a dev-centric headset. Forerunner to Meta's Quest 3, obviously. This comes alongside rumors that Meta is currently prepping a prospective Quest 3 Lite, which could be built in partnership with LG. However, it's also rumored the company is additionally prepping an Apple Vision Pro competitor for release in 2025, making a very busy near-term hardware release schedule. Indeed, even I didn't highlight it. So what are we thinking here, guys? It's interesting that the Quest 2 is an interesting option because it can be a cheaper alternative, obviously, especially if you don't care about mixed reality and lower graphical elements and a lower refresh rate. I think it's limited to 90, and I think the Quest 3 is 120 up to 120. Or is it the other way around? Or is it 90 and then 6? Anyway, I have some videos on the verses and all that kind of stuff, probably for the Quest 2, as you guys seem to really want some Quest 2 stuff, maybe some comparison graphical things. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see on the Quest 2 and what questions you have and so forth, and vote in that poll. But it's interesting. Would you buy a Quest Lite as well, depending on what it would include, I suppose? I mean, what would the Quest Lite be? I've heard people saying there'll be no pass-through, which would be really weird. I can't see that being the case, because there'd be lots of injuries and lots of damaged televisions, Wii style. So that wouldn't be great. But it'd be interesting to know what you guys think about the idea of a Quest Lite. What would that entail? What would that need to have? Obviously, it would need to be as cheap as or cheaper than the Quest 2, and obviously cheaper than the Quest 3. But would you go for that? Would you go for a Quest 3 with no pass-through and no mixed reality? But it's an interesting alternative choice because pretty much everything Quest 3 works on it. I don't think there's any only Quest 3 exclusive stuff, the stuff that's mixed reality. But otherwise, it still works on the PC and everything. All the games work. So it's still an impressive option if you just want to save some money, but still have most of the benefits but lower the fidelity. So I think it's a pretty cool option here. Could be interesting choice. Let's ask Lily. Lily, what are you thinking about the price slash of the Quest 2, the rumors of the Quest Lite? What's your thoughts on this whole thing? Seems pretty cool to add the options if you're asking me, but what would a Quest Lite need for anyone to care as well?
Slashing the Quest 2 price is a smart move by Meta, making VR more accessible to the masses. And as for a Quest 3 Lite, it'd need to strike the perfect balance of affordability and performance. Maybe fewer frills, but still enough oomph to run the latest games. Keeping it light and comfy wouldn't hurt either. That $200 price point is just chef's kiss, though.
I think I tend to agree, Lily. The girl's not wrong. In Flat Gaming, we have a couple of people that cover the history of games and bring them back to life, such as Night Dive Studios, do things like System Shock, whether it be fixing it up for modern PCs or modernizing it and bring us a new version. Doom 64, Turok, Blood, loads of them. And then there's also people like CD Projekt Red owned GOG.com as well that do great stuff. They just actually put on Alpha Protocol, if you remember that one. Now I know what you're thinking at this point, thinking, what's this got to do with VR, Integer? Well, all of this reminds me to say what Impact Reality is doing with Flat to VR Studios is similar to what Night Dive and GOG do for retro, making retro work in the modern times. These guys are taking games that are flat and turning them to VR. At least that's the plan, and got me excited. I think it'd be interesting to you guys as well. So let's read the article and kind of tie all this in there. So Impact Reality, the VR publishing and marketing firm, announced it's formed a studio dedicated to porting flat screen games to VR. I feel like I said it wrong. Porting flat screen games to VR. Did I say it right? Anyway, called Flat to VR Studios, the venture is aimed at merging traditional video games with immersive VR experiences. It's set to engage leading developers from the VR modding scene to create officially licensed VR adaptations of popular flat screen games. Flat to VR community has proven there is a tremendous appetite to experience cherished games in an entirely new way with virtual reality, said Elliot Tate. That's not me, that's Elliot that said that, even though I'm saying it, but he said it, not me. I'm just quoting him. We're thrilled to work directly with the best developers to create official high-quality VR versions of hit titles available directly on VR storefronts such as MetaQuest, PlayStation VR2, and Steamio. That sounds good to me. Flat to VR Studios is partnered with Team Beef. I love that name, Team Beef. We should get these a little bit zoomed in more for you guys as well if you want to read along. Team Beef, known for bringing retroactive VR support for games such as Doom, Doom 3, Quake 3, the original Half-Life. They got a VR for original Half-Life, and Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Wow. Led by Tate, the studio includes VR porting veterans Kabbalistic and Ratsipata as our usernames, right? Renowned for their VR studio names, I guess. Renowned for their VR adaptations of games like Half-Life 2 and Outer Worlds, respectively. Outer Worlds is that game that gave me real kind of weird water vertigo terror shakes. Anyway, that's another thing. No one cares about that. The studio is currently working on an official VR port of a still undisclosed game, which is slated to release in late 2024, early 2025 on major VR platforms. Is this exciting? Is this not exciting? I think this is good. This is what we need. This could be the Night Dive Studios or the GOG of VR, and I'm all for it. I'm happy about it. Are you guys excited about it? And more importantly, well, not more important, but equally importantly, what games would you guys like to see made into an official VR version, licensed and horrific? If you could have any game, free games that you'd love to see turned into VR. Now I might have to pause and think for a moment if I could come up with three. Let me think. Well, one I would probably say is the original Deus Ex, or any Deus Ex games would be amazing actually with Deus Ex. Let me think of another one. Heck, Dragon's Dogma 2, first person in VR. Even though I haven't even played that one yet, I'm still working on the first one. That'd be cool though. Let me think of another one. Let me think. I know Prey 2017, I think it was, had a VR mode, I think, but that was for the sub game. Maybe an entire campaign official VR version of something like Prey. So I could think of the top of my head without pausing. But you guys have got way better ones, so share them in the comments below. Let me know if you're excited about this. I know I am. And don't worry, I've got you guys. I know what you're thinking. What would Lily pick as her free games to turn into officially licensed VR versions? Lily, hit us with it.
Oh, what a thrilling idea to bring flat games to VR. It's like giving them a whole new dimension of coolness. Let's see, for my top 3. First up, I'd absolutely love to see The Witcher 3 with its rich world and storytelling. Then, imagine sneaking around in Dishonored with VR's immersion. And lastly, Final Fantasy VII. Getting to see Midgar in VR would be like a dream.
Wow, she actually came up with 3 games and they were pretty good ones. I've trained her well. Interesting bunch of games there, Lily. Interesting. Okay, Lily, I think it's time to give our beautiful viewers and listeners, and even the not so beautiful ones because we're inclusive, a XR VR tip of the week.
For this week's VR XR tip, let's talk about the play space. Ensure your area is clear of furniture or obstacles before diving in. A dedicated VR mat can be a great cue for staying centered and safe in your virtual world. And always recalibrate your boundary system to match your current play space for each session. Safety first makes for uninterrupted fun.
The PlayStation VR2 stuff doesn't stop. Or at least it doesn't seem to, like, but not the good stuff. Which is a shame. This is feeling a lot like PlayStation Vita or other things all over again. But there is a silver lining, but it's not this part, although it's going to hint at it. Now, I forgot to mention in the previous segments as well that at the moment we're using rotorvr.com. Shout out the colleagues. You know, Sony reportedly pauses PlayStation VR2 production due to low sales. Do you guys think the media's kind of out for Sony, or is this just them being factual here and there's no big deal? I mean, big deal in terms of what's happening, but it seems to be the thing right now is to just find any story that is negative on the PlayStation VR2. Alright, Sony has reportedly paused production of PlayStation VR2 as it looks to clear its backlog of inventory. According to the Bloomberg report, which means it's obviously true then, isn't it? I don't know. PlayStation VR2 sales have slowed progressively since its February 2023 launch. Citing people familiar with the company's plans, Sony has produced well over 2 million units since launch, noting that stocks of the $550 headset are building up. Surplus is throughout Sony's supply chain, indicating the issue isn't confined to a single location, but it's spread across different stages of Sony's production and distribution network. As follows news that Sony Interactive Entertainment laid off, and we spoke about this in the previous podcast episode, you should check out as well, or check out the playlist, I'll put a link to the playlist for it. Follows news that Sony Interactive Entertainment laid off 8% of the company, which affected a number of its first-party game studios also involved in VR game production. They entirely shut it down. Its London studio, some people told me that London studio wasn't going to be making more VR games anyway. I'm not sure if that's right or not, but I'll take their word for it. Usually you guys know more. I just got the balls to make the videos. That's the only difference. That doesn't sound right, actually. That sounds more like confrontation. I didn't mean like that. I guess what I'm saying is, it is easier to know stuff than it is to put stuff to the test. And I know I don't know stuff, and I put it to the test, which is fine, because then I learn from you guys. So that's fine. And I should add in here as well, triggering lots of people on the whole side loading of Quest or whatever. I don't hate side loading. I just don't think having to side load, however easy it is a replacement or considered a consumer feature. It's not, wait, we shouldn't even talk about this because this is like nothing to do with PlayStation VR2. But it's not the same thing as it just being a feature that you just turn on or off type of thing. It's you gotta go through steps. Tutorials not the same thing. But if you got triggered, I love you, just not in that way. Okay, and they also reduced headcount at Firesprite, the studio behind PlayStation VR2, who made Horizon Call of the Mountain as an example. Meanwhile, Sony is making PlayStation VR2 officially compatible with PC VR games, as the company hopes to release some sort of PC support for the headset later this year. The move underlines just how little confidence the company has in its future lineup of exclusive content, just 1 year after launch of PlayStation VR2. I guess this is the part where they're kind of saying their perspective on it, which is they don't believe they have confidence in the first place. Now, lots of studios and lots of tech companies have had layoffs, kind of feeling the effects now of the COVID. Can we say that word? Does that demonetize things if it's ever monetized anytime soon? Holy moly. Okay, you guys can't see if you're listening only on the podcast, but I've got a hole in my shirt. I should not buy shirts with green bits on them. Anyway, confuses the green screen. It's pretty clean though, actually. Pretty clean hole right in my heart. Do you guys agree with that? It is a lack of faith in the exclusive content I think it's been quoted already that they got very little major things coming up this year anyway, even in the non-VR sense. So that's not really saying much maybe anyway. Most of the stuff's going to be probably PC releases for the most part. Unless you're including like what do they call them, live service type things. This is not this is not good news, right? You want to hear stories about things selling out, not them having too much stock. And I think I've seen a few times already now where there was a lot of people complaining in one of my PlayStation VR 2 things about how it was the review saying that it wasn't expensive. It's not expensive and it's the same price as the Quest. Not only are you wrong, but there's a whole bunch of articles and stuff that agree with me, and that is a lot of the reason. Even actually, I think I've even got like a vote thing that suggests that, if I remember rightly. Let me think for a second and see if I can find it if it is the case. But one moment. So there was this poll here. I don't know if it's the best example of what I'm saying, but it was along the lines of, we have only 8 votes. This one's much lower than the 20. I was basically me asking you guys what you would do in the circumstances of Sony shutting down its studios and so forth. What would make you buy a PlayStation VR 2? So I asked you guys if you needed exclusives. Now I got to work because unfortunately with YouTube's community polls, they don't exactly make it easy for you to figure out. So you have to actually math, and I got like an E in maths. So yeah, obviously high finance is my strong point. It says there's no need for exclusives. You've got 25% of you said that of the vote. So you need exclusives with your device, is what you're saying here. But then there's 63% of you said with PC support, you consider it. And then 13% said as long as the library is strong, third party is enough. I think the question was, is third party alone enough? Not the biggest amount of people. I've heard if it was like 20 or something else. If you want to vote in there, cast your vote. We got lots of cool community post stuffs, quizzes and so forth. It's definitely worth subscribing. If you haven't already, then you can enjoy the pleasure of the flesh. That is random trivia and goodness of increasing thy knowledge on the VR, as I do myself, learning for you guys, as well as teaching on occasion, believe it or not. So for that, you need a PhD in the things that you're talking about when it comes to doing YouTube videos sometimes for subjects, apparently. Anyway, so yeah, what are we thinking here? Are we thinking this is, again, another beginning and the end? Is it just the media just jumping in more stories? There's quite a few comments on this story. We don't usually look in comments on the podcast, but I probably could have highlighted some. Maybe we can do that. Should we do that in the podcast? Highlight some cool, interesting comments and then go from there. I don't know. Let's have one here. Nevets. Sony has failed shockingly on this. It's unreasonable to think that they could have propelled VR into mainstream gaming. It's completely reasonable to feel bewildered by all their missteps. I think it can become mainstream gaming if the devices themselves, I mean, what Sony had done well with PlayStation VR 2, I think has made it easy. The Quest is still easy, but it does require some steps sometimes. You want to capture certain gameplay and things like that. But if you just want to share your gameplay and so forth and capture it, it's no easier. There's nothing easier than just plugging in and throwing steps on the PlayStation 5. I think the problem for VR generally in terms of mainstream in it is like two things. It's kind of like the cost and the convenience. That's the problem. That's what stops most people even bothering streaming it, because it's a lot of work to have that thing on your head. It's hot. It's not just glasses or whatever else. Once it's just glasses and once it's a thing that you can just kind of like turn on a switch in the engine, it's VR available, that's when it will be fully mainstreamed and so forth. But you know, another comment here, Gonzac. It's hard to spend money on a device with no games other than those you can already play in other headsets. I'd happily buy one and a PS5 if there were good exclusives games for it. But as it is, I'll keep playing on PC VR or Quest 3, which has better quality PC, and you can play wireless, both PC. I don't know if it's got better quality PC yet. We'll have to see about that, right? When it goes on the PC itself. Otherwise, the PC quality is comparable, at least. We've got to remember the lenses on the PlayStation VR 2 is superior in terms of the HDR and color. Sometimes it can look a little bit better and a little bit more colorful compared to even the PC versions of things. But, you know, check out the Versus video, I suppose. But otherwise, it's true, there's more flexibility and you got it on the PC right now. If you could use PC VR to play those few exclusives they have, like the Resident Evil VR games, I totally would buy it. For me to buy the headset, they have to give some incentives. A lot of you have said that as well about Resident Evil 4 VR. The problem is, even Resident Evil, I was gonna say 6 wouldn't be right. Even Resident Evil 7 is not on any other platform in VR other than PlayStation 4 or 5. So that's unlikely to happen. They would have to get Capcom to do that. I don't know if Capcom would care to do it, but that would be one of the ways as well to turn this around. Would be like, I mean, we should save some of this conversation for the next topic in the list, depending on what order this is in and which order you're watching, which is going to be another subject about PlayStation VR 2. But that would be one of the ways to get them is Resident Evil 4. Got that on PC, I'd be sick. Don't have to buy a PlayStation 5 with the PC compatibility. all of that will go a long way, and I'm sure they will ship more stock, especially if they can get the cost down as well, or if they can make a version, which is unlikely, but if they can make a version that doesn't work with the PS5 but it works with the PC, that's cheaper. I think that's it's an interesting thing. I know what's going on. It's one thing off the next with PlayStation VR2. The quicker they can get it working on the PC, I say the better. Let's ask Lily what she's thinking about this. So, pausing production of PSVR2, Lily. What are you thinking about this? Taking into account, obviously, that we do have the PC compatibility upcoming. What's your thoughts again on this? We've spoken about it at length a lot of times. Add your 2 cents to the conversation for the community to ponder.
Well, the pause on PSVR2 production is a bit of a shocker, isn't it? It sounds like Sony might be recalibrating their strategy in the face of those tough sales numbers. Making PSVR2 compatible with PC could be a game changer, opening up a whole new library and potentially a new audience too. It's like they're unshackling the headset from the PS5 to see if it can fly on its own. I'm curious to see how this plays out and what the Intigens think about it. It's definitely a bold move. Fingers crossed it pays off for VR fans looking for more versatility and options.
Yes, yes indeed. Interesting times as ever in the world of VR and XRness. Due to layoffs and budget cuts, we will be reusing the sponsor segment we used in the last episode, so do check out JustVRGaming.shop. And you won't be surprised to know that this episode is sponsored by, well, yours truly, the Integer, aka JustVRGaming, bringing to your attention the very cool websites that we have available for you that will contains many cool VR related things, from articles to PDFs, books, some free, some paid to support the channel, and the JustVRGaming.shop as well. It has all manner of cool merch to be showcased soon enough once I can afford my own merch, and many other cool stuff. So do check those out, support the channel. Some options are free as well. You can use our Amazon links if you want to buy any of the VR stuff that we talk about, any of the devices and so forth. Yeah, use the link within 24 hours of clicking and it will count, and you'll be supporting the channel for free, and you'll allow me to make more videos, more regular, more sooner, and you'll be able to also upgrade Lily GPT's infrastructure so she can give even more unpredictable responses. Let's talk about the update in the firmware of the PlayStation VR 2 that points to wired PC VR support. This is like some good news, but it depends on how you look at it, because people are kind of painting a narrative with it, as you'll see in the article as we go through it. And maybe we'll go through some comments again, because that was kind of interesting. We kind of did it in one of the topics, but anyway, let's get into the story here. Sony announced last month that it was bringing PC VR support to PlayStation VR 2 sometime this year. Now, all signs now point to a direct wired connection holding few implications for Sony's VR strategy, holding a few implications even. According to the latest PlayStation PlayStation 5 firmware update, PSVR 2 now works without needing extended display identification data, EDID. I had something like that on one of my setup things, as like a scaler or something like that, and DisplayPort compression, DSC, all technical stuff. Two things which were baked into the headset's firmware for use with the PS5 consoles. Now we have a tweet. Is it a tweet? Was it an Exodus? Anyway, Brad Lynch, sadly, it's Bradley, is his Twitter handle if you want to follow. I get lots of notifications on my X, which you can follow as also. It's just at JustVRGaming. You can follow his as well. He's an expert in this stuff. Summarizing of the same thing is basically, based on that change, it looks like the PC support will be directly plugged in and not streamed. Is Sony washing hands? Now, I was kind of confused by this when I read it originally, and then they kind of go into here saying, as Lynch rightly asks, is Sony washing its hands of PSVR 2? It might be. And that's kind of the aspect of this, which is kind of what we were talking about, what we were saying, it's going to rely on third party here and just let them get on with it, which might be wise considering the current climate of costs and stuff, but also unfortunate at the same time, because it means almost likely no exclusives from them, including the Astro one people were asking for, and that's probably not going to happen, which is sad, right? But it's still better than it being completely just like, you know, an expensive option for third-party high fidelity stuff. At least you can now use it on your PC as well once it happens, and not have to do anything extra. They might have to still make a PC. Let's read more anyway. Supporting PC through a direct tether and not a console-based streaming solution completely frees PSVR 2 from the PlayStation 5 ecosystem. Then users ditch the console entirely. It admittedly locks users into a fairly lackluster, did I say lackluster? Lackluster game catalog, according to them. But I think they're talking about exclusives here, not general catalog. While this sounds great for consumers in general, it may point to troubled waters for the company's VR strategy moving forward. It makes you wonder, will there be a PlayStation VR 3? It then contrasts, unlike Meta's Quest platform, Sony ostensibly hasn't subsidized even PlayStation VR 2 hardware in an effort to recoup on costs with software sales though, putting the MSRP, that's like retail price, of the $550 headset likely at or above the cost of production. Granted, we haven't seen the hardware cost breakdown, although it's at least clear that from the outset that Sony wasn't beholden to funding the sort of anchor content that it needed in order to convert a significant portion of the 50 million PlayStation 5 owners. It's a lot of owners. Provided Sony is really untangling PlayStation VR 2 from the PS5, the company may even see it as a way to wind down its VR efforts. If instead the company went with a PC VR streaming solution that required PS5, it would only really provide choice to existing PSVR 2 users and not attract new users, from helping it to flush its backlog of unpurchased stock, as we spoke about in another topic in this episode 2 of the Just VR Gaming podcast, available in all your usual places, including obviously YouTube. We likes the YouTube, the Spotify, we likes the Spotify, I guess. We likes the Apple as well. It's on the Apple, and not Apple like as in juice or the food, but like, you know, the Apple thing that, why am I even, it's like a terrible joke. But we like apples, and we like Apple as well. We like all the places that you like to listen to us on. So just do it wherever you like to do it. And you know, if you like the videos and subscribe, make your mother happy. Okay, but yeah, silver lining, I suppose, is that if it gets to working on PC, a lot of you said that you would be more interested in considering buying it, even without exclusives. Let's just check out some comments. So we have here, is that Adra? Adra is a diva, apparently. Sony should have created a wireless link instead of tethering. Meta and Steam links work great for my Quest 3. Another one agreeing here. At that price, I agree they should have. This is a bigger comment. I don't know if I want to read all that. It's a lot. It's I don't want to stretch the video just for the sake of stretching the video, but it's like four dislikes. So maybe we just go to ones that are heavily liked and be like time saving here. That's a big comment as well. Too long. What's this one? Let's see what this is. An interesting thought experiment. This is Nevets. GTA 6 were released as a VR only title, and ignoring the resultant fury, what difference would this make to the mid-term future of VR? That's really playing Angel's Advocate right there. I mean, if you put, I can't even get past the idea of how outraged people would be if GTA 6 was a VR exclusive. But the more that studios like a Rockstar get into something like a VR, which I think they've only ever done with LA Noire, at least as a publishing arm, which I think is higher rated on the PlayStation VR 1 instantly rather than it is on the PC, because the controls are all messed up. But that would be anything like that gets more people. Like, people have already said that if you got Resident Evil 4 VR onto like a PC, people will buy a PlayStation VR 2, because that's what you call a system seller. It's a system killer. Well, not a system killer, but a system killer as in like a seller, positive, like goal killer, you know, like that kind of killer. Like, it's that kind of system seller. That's why sometimes exclusives can matter. But like I've said already, at that cost, paying $1,000 right away for one game can be pushing it. It's interesting. It's an interesting question, I suppose, if you're playing Angel's Advocate with it. Another one here is this whole Gothic villas, type of villas I would like to stay at. Hopefully eye tracking works on PC too. I'm sad to see PSVR 2 in troubled waters, as are we, I'd say, right? I was super hyped for its launch. For VR to succeed, 90% of the games should be playable either flat or VR. Same games. Not some watered down Horizon clone, but full game, same as flat. I agree with this in the sense of that is what we do need more of. We need full games, full like games like Resident Evil, full games like the Asgard Wraths. We want full games. We don't want watered down versions. Even like something like Fallout 4 VR with all the missing stuff. You have to mod it to make it like actually the full game. So people just want the games to be normal but VR, not special, not game but with VR in the title, just normal. Give us a normal game, a full game experience that we can be enveloped in, and the hardware over time will take care of itself, because obviously we are going to get to a point where it's glasses. I mean, some dude put something in his brain which is scary, neuro control of I can't remember what game it was, but that was creepy, you know. So we obviously will have the glasses soon in a couple of years, so that part will solve itself. But the games side of it, I wanted to see more from GDC as well in terms of Unreal Engine. Didn't really see much announcements as far as from their side, in terms of the VR side of it. But the easier that it is to just press a button somewhat almost in your games and they're VR ready, the more we will have a situation where it's just a case of as easy as turning VR on and off, like HDR or something on and off, and you're in VR mode rather than it being a heavily specific made thing, which I think could go a long way. And then another one here, Gabe Zuckerwell. There's no play on Zuckerberg, is it? For competition's sake, I hope it won't work. with Steam VR. We need more storefronts, not bigger Valve monopoly. That one's got 6 downvotes and 2 ups. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really. I mean, Steam's pretty open with their VR in the first place. I think if it doesn't work with Steam, that would kill a lot of it. I think it needs to work with Steam VR. I'm going to be honest with you. It needs to work as an open Steam VR PC thing. It can't work as well if it's locked off of Steam. That's going to kill off loads and loads and loads of games from working on it. So this person said, I think that person's drank too much here. And I think they're kind of right. That's, I don't know if I agree with that. That's kind of the most interesting of the comments there. So what's you guys' thoughts? What do you think? Again, kind of touching on a similar topic about the lack of, or them Sony stopping production allegedly of the PlayStation VR 2 because they got too much stock. What would make you buy one again? Vote in the vote thingy in the community post. I'll link to it in the pinned comment if I remember. Remind me if I haven't. What would make you buy a PlayStation VR 2 if you haven't already got one? If you already have a PlayStation VR 2, what do you think needs to be done to change this tide of negative news coming non-stop? Is this another PlayStation Vita situation? Is this another situation where Sony has great hardware, great tech, but nobody or not enough people are utilizing it for it to be successful because the cost is just too damn high, among other things? I don't know if Lily's got much to add to this. We kind of talked about it already in the previous topic, but I guess I'll ask her in the way it's framed. Lily, do we take this firmware update of the PlayStation VR 2 as a statement of Sony washing their hands of VR? Are we not going to see a PlayStation VR 3 at this rate, or is this hyperbole from the media? Is hyperbole even a word? What do you think, Lily?
It's definitely an interesting turn, isn't it? Saying Sony is washing their hands of VR might be a bit dramatic, though. It feels more like they're adapting to the market. By updating the firmware to make PSVR 2 compatible with PC, they could be broadening their audience and staying flexible in a pretty competitive space. It's like opening up the playground so more kids can play, right? It's not necessarily a step back from VR. It could be a strategic pivot. It's about keeping options open for the PSVR 2 to thrive, even outside the PS5 ecosystem. I'd say let's watch and see how it unfolds. The VR landscape is always full of surprises.
There you go, that's what she thinks. Interesting. Okay, and now the special mentions. So, here we go. Meta announces multi-million-dollar XR development fund to boost newly formed studios. This is a good move, right? This is gonna only help Meta and its VR devices and so forth. So, it's an exciting thing. And as a developer myself, I'm getting back into it, by the way. If you're interested in that, then you can check out Way of the Pigeon on YouTube. But getting that there up again. This is interesting because I definitely would like to test out some development stuff with my devices since I've got them. I might as well use them. Well, I say devices, it's really only the Quest that you can really test it with. PlayStation VR at the moment too, I don't know if that's going to be let you develop and test on. That's another argument. So that's a cool thing. Also combined with that is the fact that HTC is giving devs a big revenue share boost on its VR platform. I think it was something like 90%. So that's another thing. So there's lots of money to be had if you're a developer of VR, it seems. And you keep the costs at a level that is sustainable so that you can take advantage of the money that is being handed out, hopefully like candy. In other stories, Apple is adding support for Vision Pro's input system to WebXR. I forget what this was actually about, but apparently it's a way that lets it interact with the web more easy without controllers. They didn't like it before, so that's good for any Vision Pro people. This is really cool. Meta has extended its Quest 3 Asgard's Wrath 2 bundle offer through to the end of June. So I said previously that it was the end of March. They've extended it to the end of June now, so you got more time to use our Amazon link and buy yourself a Quest 3 within 24 hours of clicking said link, so you can also get Asgard's Wrath 2 for free, which is like worth another like $50, something like that. So it's a good deal, and it's good that they're extending it. Servius affirms Alien VR game is still in development. So apparently they announced in 2022 that they was making this alongside with 20th Century Games. I suppose it's a play on 20th Century Fox, and it's still in development. It's still gonna happen. So a VR game of Alien freaks me out. I don't know about you guys there, it freaks me out, because if you ever played the flat version, which was Alien Isolation, that was one of the scariest games I've ever played, especially with headphones. Me and a friend was playing it at the same time. Yeah, never again. It is one of the most terrifying. Especially you can't really shoot anything, and it's like an actual alien, it's actual xenomorph action. You're not just like shooting 5,000 of them and like stuff. It's one alien or maybe one alien. It is insta kill, lose your progress, try and get to a save point nerve-wracking, like a Souls game type of level of fear on top of the scary atmosphere and sounds. So this could be amazing. So I'm glad it's still in development, and I hope that it's going to be a great addition to VR and VR horror, but I'm scared and hope it doesn't come out at the same time. What do you guys think? Are you guys excited about a VR Alien game? There's also been announced a sequel, no, not a sequel, another VR entry coming in the Myst series, which is this time Riven. Now, I don't know about you, but the Myst/Riven series has always been too moon logic for me. It's always been fascinating at the same time, you know? It could be cool to walk around with it in VR until you get stuck. But otherwise, if you're one of those rare people that actually could figure out that game without using a walkthrough, this is great news. The more VR games, the better, I say. Meta has released new mixed reality showcase for Unreal Engine developers. So the GDC has been going on, and that's what they've done. It can only excite developers. It's a good thing, good move again by Meta. You know, as I've said in my review videos and so forth, if you haven't watched those, check it out. It's the ones with the cats, or ones with me as well. Anyway, cat and the dog, I should say. Cat and the dog at time of publishing. As I said already, there's no doubt that Meta is heavily in when it comes to supporting VR compared to Sony, who we're not sure about at the moment. We're not sure at the moment at all. But there you go. That's cool. And after building one of VR's most successful games, Beat Saber founder plans to take a break from VR, and his nickname is Split, as my nickname is Integer. Okay, I know Beat Games and creator behind VR's favorite block slashing rhythm game. Are we sad? Is this bad? Doesn't matter. Well, everybody needs a break from everything every now and then. I'm sure I'll be back and refreshed and beating the saber out of VR soon enough. But I don't know your thoughts on that. And I think the final one I highlighted here is that Meta, as of the 13th of March 2024, is issuing voluntary recall of early Quest 3 Elite battery straps due to charging faults. There was problems with the $130 Elite battery strap thingamajig is the word I want, and that forced the company to pull shipments back nearing the release time and that. So I think the ratings are up on Amazon now because that means they've fixed it. But if you, I guess if you want to recall it, you can get your money back and get one that works, it seems to be, which is only fair. So yeah, that's a special mention roundup. Although there's a VR horror game here called Happy Funland coming to PSVR2 and Steam VR this month, apparently. So I'm gonna have to put that in the list and check it out. It's been a long time since I played a horror game though, so maybe apart from Resident Evil or in that, am I too wimped out for these now? Share your thoughts below. Okay, in this episode we're gonna mix it up with the second segment, which might be the first segment depending on what order things are. This time we're gonna do some trivia, some VR XR trivia. This one's actually posted in the community post section, so it's been some interesting answers. Most of you got this one right already, but I want to see how many of you get it right now. So, question is, and it's a tricky one, what was the first commercially available virtual reality headset?
Hope you've all been doing your homework, VRers. Was it A. Oculus Rift, B. HTC Vive, C. Nintendo Virtual Boy, or D. Sony PlayStation VR1? Good luck, and remember, I'm watching, so no cheating.
Throw in your answers in the community post that is linked in the pinned comment on the YouTubes, or anywhere else where I can link that. If it's like Spotify or something, I'll put like a link if it lets me, but otherwise at JustVRGaming on YouTube if you want to play along. Well done if you've done it right. If you've done it wrong, watch more videos and do your homework here. I mean, forget everywhere else. Watch videos here, learn stuff, and then watch everywhere else afterwards. So we talked about a range of subjects in this episode 2 of the JustVRGaming podcast, including Quest 2 slashing the price, or Meta slashing the price of Quest 2. We talked about Impact Reality's ambitions to be the Night Dive Studios of VR, Sony losing their S, and again with the PlayStation VR 2, but also maybe playing a smart strategy and switching up and getting prepped for PC, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including like the different funding things that's happening and people leaving and games that are coming up. So what did you guys think? What did you guys thought about this episode? Did you enjoy it? What changes do you want? What things do you want added? What other things should we talk about? And yeah, leave all your comments of all your things that you can think of below, so we can improve things and make things even better for your listening and viewing pleasure. And remember, you can view in all different places, in privacy or not in privacy, clothed and otherwise. We don't judge. But we thank you for listening and watching, liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff. And Lily, did you enjoy the episode? Let them know and close out for us.
Totally enjoyed it, Leon. Every episode is like a new adventure. All right, VRers and Integens, that's a wrap on this episode of the JustVRGaming podcast. Thanks for tuning in, And don't forget to leave your comments. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay awesome and keep rocking the virtual worlds. Matane.